So today we have seen one of the biggest backflips, not just in the history of AFL football, but also Tasmanian state politics. Now, 2 years ago, the Tasmanian Premier, Peter Gutwin, was very, very clear that the government would not give the AFL or the Hawthorn or North Melbourne football clubs any more money. He would not extend their deals until there was a firm plan for Tasmania to have their very own AFL team. Here we are today, 2 years later, there is still no plan. Instead, all we have is the AFL trying to extort money from the Tasmanian taxpayer in the form of a stadium. The AFL is saying that Tasmania cannot have an AFL team unless they build a stadium with a roof, funded by the Tasmanian taxpayer. Now, this is an absolutely bizarre demand from the AFL when you consider the fact there is only one AFL venue with a roof, and that is Marvel Stadium at Docklands. Every single other AFL venue has no roof, including two that are going to be used this year and until 2025, one in Hobart and one in Launceston. So it's just, it makes no sense. If the Launceston Oval is okay for Hawthorn to play AFL football and Hobart is okay for international cricket and it's okay for the North Melbourne Football Club, why on earth would these two venues not be adequate and up to AFL standard for a Tasmanian standalone team? I think this is very, very clear. The people demanding this roof, the AFL and the AFL club presidents, are not thinking about what is best for Tasmanian football. They're thinking about what is best for their own clubs. Now, the first person who talked about Tasmania having a stadium with a roof was Eddie Maguire. This is a man who was the president of the Collingwood Football Club for almost 2 decades and chose for the Collingwood Football Club to play at the MCG, not Marvel Stadium, which had a roof. So clearly, Eddie Maguire was of a view that the roof was not that important. As is, by the way, every single soccer or football club in England. Not one English Premier League team plays at a stadium with a roof. So with Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, all these EPL teams who have got far more revenue than any AFL club has, can survive in a stadium in a cold climate without a roof. Why on earth would the Tasmanian team need a roof for? It is completely and utterly illogical. Now, the other part of this that is, I think, quite wasteful and quite illogical is that the government, again, the taxpayer, not the AFL, not the Hawthorn Football Club, are going to spend another $65 million to upgrade the venue in Launceston, and it's not even going to be ready until 2025. So in the event that the government was to back down and give the AFL $715 million and build a stadium with a roof, Tasmania would then get an AFL license. And this stadium in Launceston that's spending $65 million, these improvements will literally never be used because AFL football will no longer be played at the venue. The AFL football will be played at the stadium with a roof. So we're going to have one venue that's just had $65 million being spent on it, not being used, and we're going to have another venue that's cost the taxpayer $715 million being used. This is an absolute disgrace what the AFL are doing. They are trying to extort money from the Tasmanian taxpayer at a time when Tasmania has a severe rental crisis, a severe homeless crisis. The AFL is trying to get money from the taxpayer that should be going to build new housing for the homeless people and the people struggling to find a rental and waste it on a stadium with a roof that is going to have minimal use. At best, this stadium will be used for AFL 11 times a year. 11 times a year, and it's costing $715 million. And there are already 2 stadiums that are adequate and are up to AFL standard and have been approved by the AFL for AFL football until 2025. And the last point I wanted to make about this, which is probably the most important point, And that is, in order for a Tasmanian team to join the AFL, more than half of the presidents must agree to it. Now, the problem with the Tasmanian taxpayer donating money to North Melbourne and to Hawthorn is that this means that they are not going to want a Tasmanian team to join the AFL, because a Tasmanian AFL team would hurt their deals with the Tasmanian taxpayer. Quite simply, it's going to be, I would say, impossible for the Tasmanian team to get the vote of Hawthorn and to get the vote of North Melbourne. And they've got to get half the presidents. So this donation that the LNP are giving the Hawthorn Football Club and North Melbourne Football Club, not only is it wasting Tasmania's taxpayers' dollars, it is also hurting Tasmanian football, making it harder for Tasmania to have what they deserve, and that is their own AFL team. I'd love to know your thoughts, but to me, Tasmanian football has been shafted once again. The Tasmanian taxpayer has been shafted once again.